cold. Okay, this is my guide on how to write the best poetry in existence. That will literally leave Rupi Kaur and Gabby Hanna, who are like the two like poetry prodigies, poetry laureates, like literally crying and dying because your poetry is so much better than theirs. Like Shakespeare, who, Ocean Vuong, who, etc. And my okay, everyone's like, Ria, why are you giving this advice? What is your qualifications? For university, I was like, I want to choose a poetry module, #slay. And for my assessment, the teacher was like, Ria, you A, and gave me the grade, like one of the highest grades, which means publishable, highly publishable. So I actually have the legal qualifications. Rupi Kaur, I am coming for you. Gabby Hanna, like poetry genius. Literally, I am her biggest threat. Okay, so this is my guide on how to write the best poetry. Okay, put a leng font on your document, okay? Or like if you're handwriting it, this doesn't count. Like, but oh no, it actually does, because it's all about the vibes, okay? Because when I was writing it, if I wrote it using standard Arial font, I would just write some trash. E.B. Garabond, oh my god, it's like so beautiful that I just start writing way more poetically. When you're writing by hand, choose a nice pen, okay? Look, actually, like for example, I started writing using this pen. Cat, wow, right? And all of a sudden I've literally been writing in my journal like 5 times more. So what you need to do is to literally just romanticize the process, and it will be so much better. Because I know I sound delulu, and I know inherently like it's probably not going to make that much of a difference, but it did for me. It literally changed everything. So you need to just put yourself in that mindset so you can show your true genius self how amazing you are. Okay, also when it comes to writing the actual poetry, my advice is literally just write poetry, okay? Because the thing is, the first ones you will write are probably not going to be as good as the ones you write later on. Because the more you do something, the stronger the neural connections in your brain gets. And if the stronger the neural connections in your brain gets, the easier it gets and the more you improve. And then you just start writing straight up masterpieces. It's like my bestie David Goggins always says, like, instead of me giving you life hacks on what running shoes to wear, just run and you'll figure it out, okay? Because instead of researching how to write a good poem, this is all you need, okay? This is literally the only thing you need. Because you like, this is everything in this video, that's it, okay? After this, don't waste your time. However, what you can do is read more poetry. I have this video I uploaded, what else, like reading poetry I wrote, and oh my god, I wrote a diss poetry against someone called Greasy Creasy, and then he ended up seeing the video somehow. Okay, I'm gonna upload a second video where I read my poetry part 2, and I'll give the full updates about that as well. The real door goes crazy. But anyways, watch that, read other poems from poets you like, and that will also, those are basically the 2 mega life hacks. Then what you have to do as well is think about the form and the structure and the techniques, okay? Like for example, there's like different forms you can use. Like most can be just in free verse. So it's like, instead of writing like in just a straight line, you can just be like ooh, 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 like put the words around the pages, experiment, okay? And you have to think about, how does this form and this structure convey the meaning that I'm trying to write, okay? And you're like, how on earth, how am I meant to like deal with this when I've just started writing the poem and it's too much? Well, that's what editing is for. Like, you can just write one poem, and it's not like, no one just types a poem and they're like, oh my god, I finished. Like, you type a poem, then you change it, then you change it, then you change it. For example, in my reading poetry video, I made a poem called Bus Sonnet, right? And then the first, it was just stanza 1, stanza 2. But then I was like all in like 2 blocks. Then I was like, oh my god, because the first one is about being constrained and the second one is about being free, how about I put the first like words in a box and the second one's scattered all over the page to visually demonstrate what the actual poem is about. So that is what you can think about. I also like to do typography, where if I write something, I can like cross out certain words to create double meanings. You can use strike throughs, you can make it bold, you can just use whatever you want. Honestly, go as crazy as you want, go as insane as you want, experiment. You are a genius, okay? Like, I mean, literally everything, okay? keep on writing and it will be good. What you need to do is don't be afraid to make them long. Don't be afraid to make them in depth. Don't be afraid to use lots of techniques, okay? Because like, I know everyone's like, Ruby Core is trash, hashtag he dipped his fingers inside, hashtag honey, hashtag blah, 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 right? But like, she has this poem that's really bad. And the reason it's bad is my friend sent it to me and she still found Ruby Core book and it was like, it's so bad. And it's because the entire poem is masturbation is meditation, and that's the poem. It's 3 words. And I'm like, oh, Ruby Core, no. But Ruby Core truly wanted to show this and actually ate. She could have actually made it longer, actually used techniques, actually used the format and structure, actually given a deeper meaning to what she has just said. Because what she has just said has many interpretations, but what she can do is show even more just by doing that. And don't be afraid to make it short either, but not like that. Like, girl, what are you doing? So you can use that. You can literally, like, for example, what I do is I think about the sound of the poem as well, because I can just think like, oh my god, like, use this word and then use this word that creates an internal rhyme and it flows really well. So what you can also do is read the poems you write out loud and you're just like, oh my god, I snapped. Oh my god, I ate. You can also think about the imagery. Okay, imagery is basically the image you get in your brain when you're reading it. So it just creates a really nice image from your words. What you also need to do is be detailed as possible, okay? Because it needs to have specificity to it. If you're like, I got the bus, then you're like, okay, she got the bus. If you're like, she got the 58 to XYZ place, then you're like, oh my god, because it's just more detailed, and then you're like, oh my god, you know. Also, what I have that helps is I originally created this for writing books and fiction rather than poetry, but ended up coming in really useful. But I have this document called a leng prose doc, where I put a bunch of words or a bunch of sentences that I really liked from other books or that I just found. So if I needed inspiration of what word do I put, I literally just go through the document. I'm like, oh, this is cool. Oh, this is cool. Oh, this is cool. Obviously, don't like copyright other people's work, but like, you can be inspired by other people's work, okay? You can be inspired by Rupi Kaur's genius, okay? So literally just do that. And also what you need to do is just start writing about something. Like, think about emotions, think about what you are feeling, and just write, and then just write, and it's gonna come out so well, okay? Because if you're first like, ew, this is cringe, yeah, probably, but the more you do it, the more it's actually gonna eat, and then it's gonna slay, okay? So what you need to do is just think, feel, type out the feelings, and all of a sudden, like, when I'm writing, I don't even realize the internal rhyme and the metaphors and the similes and the juxtaposition or whatever that I'm writing, and I'm just like, I slayed. So that's what you be. Also, do not rush your genius, because as I said before, editing is really useful. So you could write something and be like, damn, this is kind of bad, but the more you edit over it, the better it gets, and then all of a sudden you've literally created a masterpiece. Also, whenever inspiration strikes, make sure you actually start writing, okay? For example, if I just get magically inspired and I think of a really good idea, I write it down. Like, I have an entire document of all of my poems. I will literally write it down to remember the genius that I have written. So I'm like, oh my god, this is amazing, I have to actually write it down. I write it down, then later on I go back to that document and then I write the poem. Later on I go back to the document and I add more. And also it helps to not just write one poem, because I have a document, I'm writing multiple at the same time. So if I get bored of one, I can just go to the other, then I'll get the idea for the other one, so I go back to that one, and I'm just going like everywhere, and then I end up writing a bunch of creative genius, because the more you write, the better you'll get. And if you write one poem, that poem will give you an idea for the other poem, and that poem gives you an idea for the other poem, and that poem gives you an idea for the other poem, and then all of a sudden you are actually a genius who is writing masterpieces. And also, if you're reading other people's poetry, you can get inspired by this poem's imagery, this poem's use of sound, this poem's use of erasure, this poem's use of this, and then you'll see cool things that you want to incorporate in your own work. So the more you read, and the more you write, the better you'll get. So that's basically my advice, because instead of me giving you even more life hacks, like I've given you enough. You already know what you have to do. You already know that you can research the symbolism of this and you can do that. You know. And if you're like, I literally know nothing, nobody knows anything, okay? The way you learn is from actually doing, okay? For example, if someone gives you life advice, you might listen to them and learn your lesson, but the most common way people learn their lesson is by actually making the mistake themselves, okay? So if you write a bad poem, that is not the end of the world, because you're failing upwards. At least you wrote the poem. What's not embarrassing, like I will never laugh at anyone who writes trash poetry. Okay, I literally, that's so ironic, because I literally hated on Ruby Kaur and Gabby Hanna. But to be honest, Ruby Kaur and Gabby Hanna are actually girl bosses writing poetry, okay? Like the thing is, you look at Ruby Kaur and Gabby Hanna, they are both like rich off their poetry, they are successful, and people like, I know some people hate on it, but some people really like it. Then you have the people who literally just wrote nothing because they were too scared and they don't want to put in any effort. Which one do you want to be? Rupi Kaur's poems, like I haven't actually, like I'm dragging Gabby Hanna, but like I've read a few of hers and Rupi Kaur's, like yes, there's some improvements, but also they are actually, some of them actually kind of slay. And Trisha Paytas' poetry is actually good, okay? Well, like literally anything you write is poetry, anything you write is good. Who are other people to criticize it? Whatever you make, it's art, because you said it is art, okay? Like I do not care. You know what, maybe masturbation is meditation, actually 8. And Rupi Kaur's drawings added stuff to the game, and I don't even know what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is just, you need to have belief in yourself, because self-belief is the main thing you need. I can teach you about all of these techniques. I've told you. Now what I'm saying is you need to have self-love and self-belief, and you can actually use this as an outlet to express your emotions beautifully by using all of my life hacks, thinking about all of the techniques I said, reading and writing other people's poetry, and you drawing on the techniques and the imagery and whatever that they've used. And then you will basically be a poetic genius, okay? You already are a poetic genius, okay? So like after you watch this, oh my god, wait, after you watch the other video or videos, depending on when this is uploaded, of me reading my own poetry to you, and then you're like, oh my god, Ray is actually a genius, you can write your own, because I believe in you and you will survey.